Hello, and welcome to the sixth episode of Papa Tom's Take. If you watched the first episode, you know that not all the episodes will be about current events, but some will be about things that I'm interested in and interesting people that I've met along the way. Today, I have two guests, and this is the first time I've had a guest on my podcast. And I'm had my fingers crossed that I'm not going to screw this up. So we have Barry and Millie, and in a second I'm going to let them introduce themselves and tell you what their current professional roles are, and then we're going to take a trip down memory lane to the time when all three of us were at the same university. So on my screen, I have Barry to the left, so I'm going to start with you. So quick introduction, Barry. What are you up to related to online education today?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Tom. Thanks for having me. I am a professor and a program coordinator at Penn West University. And so was hired when Penn West was California University, and we'll get into that maybe a little bit. 20 some years ago, I was hired to start the first online program at California. And so here we are 20 some years later, and we've been super successful, still going strong. And so my background in online education has been there for a long, long time. So that's in general, and in what I'm doing now is we're looking to maintain our enrollments because, as we'll talk about probably in a few minutes, higher education has been a bit of a struggle for enrollments, including online education. So we could talk about that more in a minute. So my goal is to keep those enrollments up.
Okay, and Millie?
Yeah, thanks so much, TK.
Excuse me. It should be Dr. Rodriguez, right?
I am now, yes, finally. It took me forever, but I am.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So, yes, thanks for having me. My current role in higher education is I serve as the dean of the virtual campus for the Community College of Allegheny County, and I've been here for going into my sixth year now. But in general, I've been in online higher education for almost 25 years now. So, like Barry, we kind of were like the pioneers back in the day. Kind of lifting this kind of stuff off the ground and figuring it out. So I knew when I started online learning at a school called University of Maryland University College, now University of Maryland Global Campus. And when I got into it there, I realized that it was kind of where I wanted to be and what I assumed at the time would be the future of education. So I've stayed in it ever since.
Good. Well, I'm going to give a little bit of the background of is it still called Global Online at Penn West?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, anyway, that's what I know, Global Online.
Yes.
And Barry, were you hired in 2002 or 03? You remember?
02.
Yeah. So it was early in 02, and the president of California University of Pennsylvania, CalU, at that time, apparently read an article about online education and in the Chronicle of Higher Ed. And one Monday morning, he came to executive council meeting and he talked about online. And he said, who would like to get started in it? Who would like to introduce it to CalU? And unbeknownst to me, my right hand went up. And he turned to me and said, great, do some reading about it and develop a plan. So I'm going to cut a lot of corners here. I presented that idea to the graduate council, and I challenged the different directors of graduate programs to develop online education. And not too long after that, your department, I don't know if he's still your department chairman, Bill Bennington, arranged for an appointment with me. And he said, at this appointment, I have a program that I think is going to work, but you need to make a hire. There's a guy at Duquesne, right, Barry? You were at Duquesne?
I was at Carnegie Mellon at the time.
Carnegie Mellon,
Yeah.
who's got this great idea, and I think it'll fly. Now, every time Bill Bedington came into my office, when he left, I always checked my wallet to make sure that he hadn't pickpocketed because so I agreed to meet and so he brought Barry in and Barry, flash your best smile here. Barry's in addition to being a scholar, he's a great salesman. So you got Bill Biddington ready to pick my pocket, and you have this super salesman sitting in my office, and I said, okay. And one of the things that brings to mind is that one of the analogies that President Armente coined, or didn't coin, but he used, that I liked, is he said, it's like diving off the high board while the pool is still being filled. And so we took a chance. So Barry, back at that time, how did Bill know, or how did you communicate with Bill that you had this capability?
Yeah, so I'd known Bill since the early 90s. Actually, even before that, in the 80s when I was still in college. So I had known Bill, worked on some committees with him. He knew I was into technology. So when I was at Duquesne University, which I was there for 9 years, my focus was always on multimedia education, instructional technology. That's what my doctoral degree is in. So Bill knew that, and he knew that I was trying to start something at Duquesne. Duquesne was not ready for it. So they didn't like that jumping off the high dive. They weren't ready to do that. So then when I went to Carnegie Mellon for 2 years, Bill knew the person. That meeting that you had with them, I think on that Friday, Tom, he came to me, called me at Carnegie Mellon, said, hey, this is what's happening, exactly what you described. And he said, can you have a proposal for me? I said, Bill, I'll have it to you on Monday, because I was so excited about the opportunity. I gave him 3 different proposals for 3 different programs. We didn't run the other 2, but we did run one, and as they say, the rest is history, because it was very successful.
Yep. Now, Millie used the word pioneer, and that's part of the reason why I wanted to do this podcast, because the 3 of us, plus other people, I don't mean to imply that it was just us, other people made this happen at Cal U. And Cal U at that time would have been a medium-sized university. Now, as Millie pointed out, University of Maryland had been in this business for a long time. I think Cornell and Penn State and maybe some others had some modest programs, but they weren't really into it. And I don't want to take a lot of time, but in 2002, I went to a conference of graduate deans and provosts. And I tried at that meeting all the time, at lunch, in the hallway, every place I could, to engage people in conversations about, do you have online programs? How do you go about it? Got any tips for me? What should I avoid? No one wanted to talk with me. That was in 2002. 2003, the meeting was on the West Coast and I didn't go. 2004, it came back to the East Coast and I went. And at that time, after just that short period of time, about a quarter of the presentations were about online education and graduate programs. So it's amazing how quick it grew. But we really were on the ground floor, other than like the Big Five or something like that. I'm going to say, I think you've already heard this story, Millie. When you were hired, you weren't my choice.
Yes, you told me that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I knew it. He told me.
Yeah. She was the unanimous choice of the committee. And I wanted this other young woman who was coming at this from an academic point of view, rather than someone who really knew hands-on nuts and bolts. So I thought about it for a while, and I went with the wisdom of the committee. And Millie, you're one of the 2 hires that I made during my career that I'm most proud of. So, the committee was right, and I was wrong. So, tell us a little bit about we kind of brought you in, and in my memory, as we sort of said, organize this. Is that your memory?
Yeah. So, interestingly enough, while probably you were having all of these conversations and sort of building the academic side of online learning, I went to CalU. I'm a graduate, proud graduate of CalU. And so I had, at the time when I was down at UMUC, I had reached out to my contacts, and I had a relationship with President Armenti before I even got to CalU. But I reached out to some of my contacts there and I said, hey, you guys are missing the boat here. I would love to do something like this for Cal and kind of get this off the ground. And I didn't know about like what you had done already. Like at this point, when I was sending these emails, having these conversations, I didn't know. So when I saw the position come to be, I was like, my goodness, isn't this like, I don't know, meant to be, I guess is what I would say. So yeah, when I came in, I think just having that experience at UMUC and seeing the structure of it all and understanding how the one stop was so important at the time to ensure that students had what they needed in order to be successful. And then also the marketing piece, I think, was key too, which is so unique to CalU at the time. I think what we were willing to invest in making sure that people knew about these programs was bar none. So that's really how I came into the picture. And I brought the experience of looking at this big structure that UMUC did and how to scale it to CalU at the time. So that's really where I brought my experience in understanding it all. So
Now, um, we had a faculty member, Liz Gillette, who either wanted to or did start a principals program. You probably know the answer to that, Millie. Did it actually start the principals and superintendent
oh
program?
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's
Uh,
still going today, I'm pretty sure,
yeah.
right, Barry?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because at the time, there was great pushback from school superintendents and so forth about an online program, hiring a principal that went through an online program. And it's amazing how that has evolved during the years. When you
20 years
first,
going strong.
for you, Barry, did you have that kind of pushback initially from your potential employers of your graduates?
Yeah, and especially since our profession, our the professions that our students are in, were predominantly hands-on. So working with patients, working with clients, fitness, healthcare, etc. And so I all the time, how do you do laboratory work online? I
Still
mean,
get that
I've had
today.
that question 10 times a week. And you know what we said? We said we're going to use your working laboratory. We're going to give you assignments that you can do at home or at your work facility, and that's going to be our laboratory experience. And we're going to use your family members or your clients as your case studies. So yeah, we got a lot of pushback, and now nursing, nursing is one of the biggest professions online, taught online in the country.
Yeah.
Physical therapy has moved to online in some cases. Will we see medical schools? And Millie, maybe are there medical schools? They're probably doing some online.
They
So
are. I mean, they're
yeah,
definitely doing the what you would get in a nursing education. Obviously, their clinicals, just like in nursing, are face to face. But yeah, to get that academic experience without having to be in person is helpful in the clinical side of things, because even with nursing, you're not bound then to only schedule their clinicals for X, Y, and Z time, because they're getting the education online, similar to what athletes do even in college now. They take all of their classes online so they can be in the gym, conditioning and preparing, is the same kind of aspect that I think the medical field has taken and will continue to take moving forward.
Are schools limiting online classes for people who are in residence? In other words, can someone sit in the dorm and take an online course and there's no policy against that? Is that?
Not that there's no policy against that I'm aware of.
Mm,
I think if they're out of state or international, then we're talking like there needs to be feet on the ground and proof of that. But in general, no, I think that a lot of colleges are utilizing the online modality because does give them that flexibility for training and conditioning of their athletes, to ensure that they're not missing out on the academic side of what they need to be doing, but also fully committed to the sport as well.
mm,
So.
mm. Barry, in my file cabinet somewhere, I have a whole undergraduate major called the Performing Athlete, and I've tried to sell that all over the country to
Oh,
different, and no one will buy on it. So if you want it, I can give you that curriculum, and you can put it online and have athletes from the Ohio State University taking courses from Cal U or Penn West, as it's called now. So, how has the whole thing changed in size, in your view? And the easy question on that, the easy answer to that is it's gotten a lot bigger. But besides just getting a lot bigger, how has it changed since 2002?
yeah, I would say the marketing aspect of it. So to your point, not getting into the what does an online course look like today versus back then. The marketing aspect, because it's a dog eat dog world,
Mm-hmm.
um, and universities are struggling to maintain their on-campus enrollments, so they're moving to online. There are schools that would have never considered online that are doing it today, trying to do it in a big way. So I would say for me, that's the biggest thing. The marketing. You brought up a great point that Millie was an expert in marketing, and I really enjoy that part of it. That's the most challenging part of my job today. It's competing.
And Millie, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, there's not many schools now that don't do online learning, right? Like in some way, shape, or form. There are people that are still pushing back on it because of whatever reason. They're worried about their on-campus enrollment. But I've always had the philosophy that if you don't market this, if you don't do this, you're missing out on enrollments that other people are getting. So Barry's right. Like the marketing piece has changed so much because there's so much more competition out there. So what is your value proposition? What is it that makes your program unique? What is it that sets you apart from everybody else, in terms of trying to find the students that would make the most sense for your, for your school, for your program. So that has always been the challenge, even back then, right? Like back then, it was more like convincing students that they could get a good education online and finding those folks. And now it's, how do we find enough people to keep the programs viable? And that's across the board. That's not just online, but that's on campus as well. And I'm sure you're all aware of the enrollment cliff that's about to happen for all of us. And I really do think that's where schools are going to tap into online learning to supplement their on campus enrollment decline, because there's no question there's less students to go after. So, where can you find folks that more, I should say, less organic out of high school students? Um, is your adult learners, is your non-credit opportunities and workforce development work. And that's a very, very important part of the community college aspect. Obviously, it's very different than 4-year school. So I would assume though that in order to keep up with that enrollment decline, that the 4-year schools are going to have to look to those avenues to supplement their enrollments.
Yeah, and a blessing, Tom, that came from the pandemic was the fact that it introduced this whole new group of people, young students in middle school and high school, to remote learning
Mhm.
and what online education was all about. And so I think that's helped us. But what's happened? You ask how has it changed? We're seeing way a lot younger students entering our program and more traditional college age versus no, we still have a lot of adult learners, but
Mhm.
it's the pandemic actually helped in that way.
I would say the pandemic too helped, even as, I mean, even when I got to CCAC, even, almost 6 years ago now, but um, there's still people that don't believe in online learning, right? That don't believe it, you can get a viable education from it. And so the pandemic really forced people into this modality to figure it out for themselves and to create buy-in that maybe didn't exist before. So there's very few people now that can say that online learning isn't, it doesn't work. Does it work for everybody? My whole career I've said absolutely not. It does not work for everybody. It is not the right fit for everybody, and I think that's a philosophy you have to have.
Well,
Um,
Yeah, to pick up on that, Millie, sitting in a classroom with somebody talking at you is not a good fit for a lot of people too. So,
Amen.
um,
I'm one
you
of
know,
them.
so it's interesting because when I was doing my initial research on this, I came upon a small book, and I don't have it anymore. I can't remember what it was called, but one of the things that caught my attention in that book was it predicted that in X amount of time, I don't remember the time, the question won't be is is online education better, as good as face-to-face education. The question will be is how much better is online education to face-to-face. I that little sentence stuck with me all this time. I do want to get the nuts and bolts for a little bit.
Hmm.
When we started out, we had e-college, and for whatever reason, the state system decided to go with Blackboard. Are are there still are they still on Blackboard, Barry? And is that still like the leader of the pack when it comes to platforms?
Yeah, actually, we moved to D2L. So Blackboard was considered, but we ended up going with D2L Brightspace. And that's what we've used for a number of years now. Um, I've looked at a lot of LMS programs. They're very similar. They're all getting better every year, especially with what I think we'll probably talk about is some, you mentioned artificial intelligence. So they're getting better and better, and D2L is as robust as it's ever been. So
Is it user friendly for the instructor side?
yeah, it's user friendly, and there's actually some tools within the program already that are instructor assistant tools. So if you're a newbie and you're an instructor that's being asked to teach a biology course on campus or online, I should say, there are software programs within D2L that allow you to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Like assist you with grading, assist you with communications with the students in discussion boards, and etc.
Mm-hmm. How about at Allegheny? What
We use
platform do you use?
we use Blackboard. They've always been a Blackboard school. There was a discussion for a while prior to the pandemic about considering other learning management systems. My expertise has always been since going to, I should have said, between CalU and CCAC. I started the online division at Youngstown State University as well, so which is still going strong. And if you remember Jessica Chill from back in the day, she
Yeah,
is now the director of distance learning at Youngstown State. So I brought her
interesting.
with me and, taught her everything I know, and she took over from there. But so Blackboard was used there. I had really good working relationships with those folks at that company. And so when COVID came around, we started using CARES Act funds for multi-year contracts because there was no rule against it. So we entered into multi-year contracts with Blackboard at that time. So, and they have just done amazing work, particularly when you're talking about AI and integrating AI into the learning management system. That allows not on the student side, but on the faculty side to help in developing modules, creating images and all the things that AI can do. So we've been really happy with them and just renewed our contract again. So
Okay. Other than AI, because we're going to talk about that separately, what do you see as the what do you see for the future? Maybe things that need to happen or things that you think will happen. Where's online education going now? You've already mentioned competition. So where do you see it headed? Millie, you have some ideas?
yeah, as I mentioned, I think workforce development is going to be a big piece to expanding online learning. How can we talk about it all the time at CCAC is how can we ensure that our students are leaving CCAC, going either to a 4 year, going out into industry and with those 21st century skills because I had the opportunity to do an analysis on Pittsburgh, and a lot of the employers that I spoke to said that even after coming out of school, these students are still missing key skills. So I think online learning is a way to close that gap, whether it be in a culminating experience or just again some additional um, classes that students can take to ensure that not just that because most schools deal with it on the front end, right? Like most schools get them a first year seminar course where they talk about critical thinking skills, financial literacy, like all of these things, right? But then they go and they do whatever their heart's desired, whatever their program of choices, and then at the end of the program, they're no better writers or readers or critical thinkers, maybe a little better, and they're missing that boat. So I think that's really where I know from the community college perspective that folks are going to be looking to expand to ensure that we're meeting those gaps in industry. I think if you're not looking at that, one, it's an opportunity you're missing, but two, you want to make sure that your students are prepared. So that would be my number one if we're talking about future growth. That would be it.
Barry?
Yeah, and I would say, we talked about being a dog eat dog world and how competitive it is. I think what you're going to see now is schools working together. So a lot more collaboration in order to stay alive. And so we're living it right now. We've merged where I'm at now, Penn West University. We merged 3 state universities in Western Pennsylvania, and we're now one. We wouldn't be able to do that without online education. So you ask, are there students in the dorm? Yeah, there's students in the dorm at Edinburgh that are actually taking a course from our faculty at California fully online on a daily basis. So it's kind of interesting. I don't know if they're taking their full load that way. I hope not, but they might be. Who knows? So that's one thing. And then the other thing that comes to mind is course sharing. So not only amongst sister schools, but course sharing across the country and program sharing. So I would love to, I'll give you an example of what I'd love to do, Tom. I'd love to go with a university out west, maybe in the state of California, and say, we have our program, we'd like to offer it through your school. And then we'll do a revenue share, and we get part of it, and you get part of it, and you market it there. And allow them to do that marketing piece too, an environment where there's a lot of really good students out there.
Yeah.
By sides, right? So, yeah. But in Pennsylvania, I'm on a course sharing committee for the state system, and we've just approved 6 proposals for course sharing among the 10 state universities. So they're going to share courses. We have a program now called One System, or One SIS, that allows a student from Westchester to register for a course at Penn West. And it's all seamless. They can pay for it, get the financial aid, and do all that. So for us, that's the future of our growth. We'll see that across the country, I believe.
Yeah, and I'll just chime in too that we do that now at CCAC. We have a similar partnership with the school called Bellevue. And these aren't just your articulation agreements that we're talking about. They're, like you said, student can still apply for aid and get all of the same kind of experiences in terms of the student service aspect, but they're taking some of their courses at Bellevue, taking some of their courses at CCAC. We certainly have partnerships with IUP. We did have partnerships with Penn West. So I think partnerships is absolutely on the money in terms of continued growth and expansion and, to your point, surviving.
Can an undergraduate student get their degree completely online at your institutions today?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, well, Tom, we've had I think you were still there. 2005, we started a fully online bachelor's degree in wellness and fitness. And all of a sudden, we had 400 and some new students.
I remember that. 407, I think, if my memory serves me right. That first, I was like, oh my God, that's when I came, right? Like I came in 2005. I was like, all right, now we have 400 students. What are we going to do with them?
If I could figure out a way, I'd do a hand to pat both you guys on the back, because you the two of you, and as I said, there are other people who deserve credit too, but more than any, the two of you made this a success. And I was in a meeting, and maybe you were too, where President Armente said very clearly that the online program saved the university financially. So that was quite something we were doing back then. Okay, let's go to AI for a sec. No, before we go to AI, are you all familiar with the 4 C's? You know the 3 R's. Do you know the 4 C's? Is that something that's come up?
Off the top of my head, no.
Well, I mean, we have 4 C's at ours, but I don't know if it's the same. So what
well, the 4 C's that I've read about, because I just wrote them down because I always forget one when I list it, so I wrote it down. Creativity, collaboration, critical thinking, and communication. I might have communication. Anyway, there are 4 C's like that. And many, many, many years ago, when I was still a faculty member up in Buffalo, we talked about having programs that are relevant to the needs of industry and whatever. And I've recently come upon these 4 C's, and one of the things that it suggests, and this is my lead into artificial intelligence, that the 3 R's will will be a partner to the 4 C's. They never will be replaced. But particularly starting at a younger age in education, you might have, and I'm just going to make up some numbers, you might have 95% of the curriculum revolves around the 3 R's in grades preschool to 3. And then it becomes 80-20 and so on. And by the time you get to a graduate program, the 3 R's become less important, particularly with AI. And I know that much of the discussion about AI is how faculty can use AI to teach what they teach better. And my view is that an important question that needs to be asked, and maybe it is being asked because I'm not sitting in any department meeting or anything, it's not how can we use AI to better teach what we've always taught, but how does AI change what we teach? And I'm going to say one more thing, then I'm going to get your reactions. One of the things I read was that for centuries, education has been built around getting the right answer or a reasonable answer, right or reasonable answer. And now, moving forward with AI, the answer is trivial, and the skill that needs to be developed is asking the right question.
That's right.
And I'm less concerned about, oh my God, students are going to get all their papers written by AI than I am, how do we look at what we teach and change it? So that's my kind of, just kick my soapbox away. So I'm off the soapbox. What do you think? AI and online education, where are we and where are we going? Millie, you want to start?
Yeah, sure. I mean, obviously, this is near and dear to my heart. All of my doctorate work was on AI and how to integrate it into teaching and learning. And, I think you're absolutely right. We have this conversation all the time that, just last week, I had faculty who were up in arms because, students were using AI to get answers for math, right? And they can't really prove it. There's no true proof out there yet, and a true 100% detection of it. But I think it's a losing battle, right? The concern is a losing battle. If you're going to continue to focus on trying to catch cheaters, you're going to miss the boat on how this technology can shape teaching and learning. And it's all about the process. You hit the nail on the head, Dr. K. How do we use AI to make us better learners, right? And it is about the prompt engineering. In fact, one of the things that I have created I'm a big Chat GPT fan, right? Like that's my favorite AI tool to use. I've used many of them, but that just happens to be my favorite. That I've created what I call the erroneous educator. I don't know if you've done this work before, but essentially the whole point of the AI tool is to give you false answers. It's set up purposefully to give you the wrong answer. So then you pose that to your student, right? And ask them to find the errors and explain why they're errors. And that's the kind of retooling that is going to be needed. There's really not going to be a choice, right? Like AI is so good, it's so fast, that if you want to remain relevant, like those are the kinds of retoolings that you're going to have to do in your teaching approach to get students to maintain that critical thinking that they will lose certainly if they always rely on AI to do all of their work for them. So I just read, I'm sure you saw it too, about colleges bringing the blue books back because they want to see students actually writing this down. And I'll just speak for myself. That is the last thing I want to do is, read handwritten. Plus, these students don't write. They don't know how to write. Literally, the physical act of writing is a lost art. So Yeah, to think about this from a solutions perspective, just to prevent cheating, I don't think that's the answer. But I have read that is a potential solution that some colleges are looking to. So I don't know if I
Yeah.
answered your question, but I'll let Barry chime in.
Yeah,
Now, before you start, Barry, I think that's very interesting. That the approach of having an interaction where you're given the wrong answer, and I had never thought of that. That's very interesting.
Yeah.
So, Barry, where's it going?
yeah. Well, we've talked about adaptive learning and personalized learning for years, and how do we know it's a good thing, right? All of us learn differently, but how do you do that in a classroom, whether it be online or on live classroom?
Yeah.
AI is going to allow us to do that. So it's going to assist that professor, that teacher, in identifying what are those students' needs, adapt to it, and give them the information in the way they learn best. That's going to happen. It's happening now to some extent, but it's going to happen in a big way soon. I think it's also going to assist us. We talked about with Dr. Armenti in the 2000s about the faculty member is no longer a sage on the stage, they're a guide on the side in online education. Well, AI is now the guide to the guide. So that's going to help us be more efficient with communication in courses. Hopefully the student doesn't realize it's the AI avatar or working with them and communicating, and not as much the professor. But that's going to happen. I think we're going to see a lot more interesting virtual environments. So augmented reality and virtual reality are going to become, we've talked about it again for years. I read a book 25 years ago about singularity, when we don't realize what when the real world becomes basically you can't distinguish it from
Yeah.
virtual,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyhow, I think it's going to happen with help a lot with virtual environments, robotics, those types of things.
Here, I'm gonna pose a question. Can I, TK?
Sure. Sure.
So one of the things that we're challenged with, and it could be, I don't want to say it's unique to community college, but certainly maybe a bigger issue for us is the digital divide. So the haves versus the have-nots, and how AI is going to be such a critical aspect, even in industry coming out. We talked about that culminating experience idea and making sure that they have AI as a part of their tool set. But we have students that can't get internet, that can barely afford a computer, and how do we ensure that they don't get left behind? And those are the questions that we're asking. It's not even now just we can't do AI because it academic integrity and academic freedom and all of these things, to okay, we have to do AI, and how do we make sure that every single one of our students has equal access to these tools so that they're not at a disadvantage when they go out into the workforce? And those are just something to think about, but some of the challenges that we're thinking through right now. We have a laptop loaner program at CCAC. We also have a partnership to get students internet if they need it, but we've had more need than we've actually had machines in the past year. So just to kind of put it in perspective, these are some additional intricacies that come out of online learning in general, but even now more because of AI being a critical skill.
Yeah. I certainly don't have an answer to your question. But it is, by the way, a question that's been around for a long time. I mean, we were asking that same question back at CalU when we were starting this process. So certainly, when you look at rural areas, the internet connectivity is still, I guess, pretty spotty in a lot of parts of the United States, and those are some of the parts where, in fact, I always end my podcast with a quotation. In fact, this bears on my quotation because the geography of this could potentially make it so that students could do meaningful work anywhere. But as you point out, if they don't have the connectivity or if they don't have the device, they're going to be left behind.
I really think one small answer is the cell phone, right? Like, because
Right.
everybody has it doesn't matter. Not our students don't have computers. 90% of them have a cell phone though.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Well,
But
Tom, we answered that type of question. I don't know if you remember this. You told me we want to have students on submarines in the Navy.
Yeah.
enrolled in our programs while they're on active duty. How do we do that when they're underwater for months at a time?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we dealt with that issue, so
Yeah.
no issue is too big. There's
That
solutions.
that's true.
We
That
would
that's
mail tapes at UMUC in the same because they had such a large military population at the time when we were there, and it would be like education on tapes, and they would play the tapes, and they would be out and under the water for however long, and then they would come surface and send their work back. They'd mail it back, and that's really how like distance education, correspondence education started, right? I think the military was a big driver.
that's right. And I remember, Barry, early on, there was one of your students who was a trainer for a minor league baseball team, I think, and he would work on whatever when it was on the bus rides or plane rides or however they were moving, and then he'd download all this stuff when he got to his destination. Is asynchronous still the gold standard in online?
Yeah, we had a lot of, I think that to bridge the gap during COVID, for the folks that were really struggling, we did have a big surge in folks wanting to do remote via Zoom. We're a big Zoom school. And interestingly enough, now that we've gotten past the pandemic, those numbers have declined and online learning has increased again. So I think it was a way to introduce distance ed to folks that might have not been comfortable with it, but now it seems like everybody's back to being comfortable with it. So I would say yes, asynchronous gold standard.
Real quick, I'm a big fan of Chat GPT too. Real world application. I wanted to put a 4x4 post in the ground, and I knew I was putting it in a place where there'd be a wind issue. So I wanted to do a brace on the leeward side. So I said to my Chat GPT, gave it all the details, have a 2x4. It's buried down in the ground, 24 inches. It's 6 feet tall. I want to put a brace that is 2 feet out and up 4 feet. I don't know if that was the number I gave. So then I said, what's the angle of the cut I need to make on the 2x4 so it fits flush to the, and damned if it didn't give me an answer. And
Seconds.
I did what it said and it worked.
I use it all the time. When I did my doctorate work, I did a lot of interviews with faculty to get their take. And one of my colleagues, she actually is in charge of our diversity, equity, and inclusion office at CCAC, was telling me how I think it was her son or I don't know, niece, something, referred to AI as your own very smart personal assistant. That is in your pocket at all times. And Tom, I use it all the time. Every day I ask it because we haven't applied for student loans yet for Brooklyn, private student loans. And I'll ask it, what's the interest rate today? What's the interest rate today? So little things like that, I ask it all the time. I'm constantly asking AI. And the fact that it is voice command, because the older I get, the less I can see. So I just put my little voice command up and I just talk to it like it's my friend. And I'm real polite. We had that whole conversation too. I'm real polite to my AI tool and it's real polite back to me as well.
I'm very polite too. But one of my frustrations with it is I've wanted it to learn my name, so it would be more conversational. And either it can't do it or I can't figure out how to do it. So that's a challenge I'll meet coming forward. Now, in a few minutes, I'm going to push the button to stop this recording, and I don't know if that means the two of you are going to disappear or not. Okay. So in case that's the case, I want to thank you both very much for being my first guest. The session was informative. My 12 fans will enjoy it. So
I'm starting my own podcast, so I'll send it to you guys so you can maybe be guests on my show.
That would be delightful.
Yeah, we're going to use my little podcast studio.
I'm sorry, we're going to make you go viral. So you're going to have 15 by the end of the day.
That's right.
Oh, my.
Send this link out. We'll put it on our LinkedIn's, on our Facebook.
Well, it'll take a day or so for Liam to work his magic because he's busy this summer doing an internship. So I'll let you know when it's up and available. So as always, I want to end this podcast with a quotation, and this quotation is from Dr. Deborah Lowenberg Ball, a person I don't know. But she says, the beauty of online education is that it removes geography and time as barriers, allowing the learner and learning to take place anywhere by anybody. So we were truly pioneers, and I don't know if anybody's ever going to write the history, but we at least deserve a footnote.
I like
So,
it.
any final words?
No, just thank you so much. It was so great to see you both.
Thank you. Take care, everybody.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
we'll see you. Thank you.
Bye.